Okay, so I'm going to be doing my presentation on visual impairments, which includes low vision and blindness. My name is Lindsay, and I have a particular interest in this subject because I have a friend who's blind. So it was really interesting and kind of a fun presentation for me to make. And actually, the Braille translation of my title is what is below my actual title. So you can see there. Unfortunately, we can't feel it. That would be super cool. But that's what it is in Braille. So my first slide, if I can get this to work, there we go, is titled, What is a Visual Impairment? So we studied all semester the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and I've actually studied it in a few other of my classes at Eastern. But basically, this act defines a visual impairment, including blindness, which I'll get to later, as an impairment in vision, even with correction, that adversely affects a child's educational performance. And the term includes both partial sight and blindness. So really it depends on the condition that one has, and the conditions can range from mild, from a low degree of a visual impairment, to severe blindness. And that degree of severity actually depends on a couple things. So I got this off of a pretty cool website. It had a whole bunch of information about visual impairments and what they are and the science to them and why they happen. But basically, the degree of severity depends on A, the type of eye condition an individual has, B, what aspect of the visual system is affected. So there's a bunch of different parts of the eye, and each is kind of in charge of doing a different job. So is it the ability to detect light? Is it the ability to make out shapes or color? The ability to see things at a distance, up close or peripherally? So really, what kind of blindness does this person have? Um, and lastly, how much correction is possible through glasses, contacts, medicine, or surgery? So, as we know, a visual impairment can be as little as just someone who needs glasses, whose vision isn't 100%. I can't personally drive at night without glasses, but it can, like I said, go all the way up to someone who's fully blind. So, taking visual impairments into account in a phys ed program, it's super important that we make our programs inclusive and we are allowing all kids to participate and be comfortable in class. So the important takeaways that I had were basically that people with visual impairments, they should be able to learn and to value the importance of physical education and exercise just like anyone else. Exercise is absolutely necessary to improve fitness levels, to increase social interaction and build confidence. Again, just like anyone else, and maybe even to a greater degree, because they don't have as many opportunities at home and elsewhere to kind of get this kind of physical exercise. It's important to make modifications in the classroom, which I'll go into in greater detail on the next slide. And that kind of includes how much space is being used, the lighting. Some of visual impairments deal with like contrast and bright and dark colors, so that's super important to take into account. Sound effects, which I'll get into a little bit, and then colors of equipment, which I'll also mention later in the presentation. Students with visual impairments should be able to explore the whole exercise area in order to familiarize themselves with the space. So we have to remember that these students are only they're limited to what senses they can use because they're blind. They can't see. So unlike your regular sight-seeing person, they're not going to get the same experience as them. So they have to be able to touch. They have to be able to, hear in order to really feel comfortable in an area, especially an area like a big gym. So some of the modifications and adaptations that I was able to look into, uncluttered spaces, like I was just talking about in the last slide, super important. So that picture on there is actually my elementary school gym. So I thought that was kind of cute. But it's a big open space, allows kids to have room to play and exercise, and especially for kids who have disabilities to kind of feel comfortable and not crammed. Sound effects are a super important modification slash adaptation that is kind of easily made in a physical education class. That middle picture of that ball, the audible wonder ball, I did some research into different like things that can be used and played with in a physical education program. Um, and it was cool. I found this website actually called thebraillebookstore.com, and there's a whole section on sporting goods. So this was actually one of the items right off of their website, and what it does is it just beeps like in air or when caught, so that the kids who can't see can be able to hear the ball coming, and that makes it easier to play catch or whatever event they're doing. There was tons of balls. There was tennis balls on there. That looks like a soccer ball to me, or some kind of ball that you could throw. I know they have basketballs. They also have like beeping pedometers. So there's really a wide range of what students have access to nowadays in terms of like sound equipment. Um, the shape and the color of equipment is also super important. So, like I mentioned in the last slide, contrast is difficult for some people with visual impairments. So, bright yellow, white, those are colors that are easily made out to people with visual impairments, especially with like a blurred vision. They're kind of easy to see. So, that's something to take into account when you are running a phys ed program. Change of surfaces, I thought that was interesting. So, there was one article I read about carpet being integrated into like the gym, and that would allow someone who couldn't see to kind of feel their way around and feel where they're at in terms of the big gym floor. So I thought that was a pretty cool idea. The only thing I would say with that is you just want to make sure that kids don't trip on the carpet. They're running around, they're young, so that's something to kind of be mindful of. And then lastly, group activities might make it easier for those individuals with a visual impairment to participate. So that last picture I put in, one of my favorite kind of activities when I was a kid is that parachute idea. And it's really not a game at all. And there's kids, you have kids run under it and stuff, but I feel like you can really get a good, fun time just whipping that thing up and down. So that's a really cute activity that I thought would be well integrated into a class with students with disabilities. Also, as a note, kind of side note, the use of guides and directional words slash landmarks is also super important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about guides just kind of in my closing remarks, and then directional words and landmarks, that's pretty much self-explanatory. So the one thing I do want to mention, I found a really cool kind of peer-reviewed article that I read pretty in depth, and it talked about this idea of expanded core curriculum. And expanded core curriculum is something that the IDEA has also come up with, and it's specifically for children in special, who qualify for special education, and all it means is that it's education that children need in addition to their core courses. So it's that little extra that is needed. The goal of expanded core curriculum for children with visual impairments is to leave school with the necessary skills to be independent and self-determined adults. So the 9 components of, and I'm going to get a little bit more in depth with each one. 9 components: compensatory or access skills, orientation and mobility skills, social interaction skills, independent living skills, recreational and leisure skills, career education, use of assistive technology, sensory efficiency skills, and self-determination skills. So I kind of got examples of each, so I'll just run through those quickly. The first one, the compensatory skill or access skills, that kind of includes like braille, spatial understanding, speaking and listening skills, adaptations. So it's basically like kind of the whole person skills, by feeling, by hearing, by speaking, kind of that idea. Orientation and mobility skills, they're built by movement for all students, teaching fundamental skills such as balance, locomotor skills, walking, running, jumping, object control skills. So that's where that ball comes in, like a throw and catching activity. Number 3, social interaction skills. Again, I'll go back to like the group games that increases social interaction. 4, independent living skills. So that the way that phys ed classes can integrate that is as simple as kids getting changed for gym, kind of making them feel more comfortable with like throwing on sneakers and coming into like that environment. even coming in and out of swim class, again, putting a bathing suit on, that kind of is just like a regular life skill. Number five is recreational and leisure skills. That is a wide, phys ed provides a wide range of opportunities for that. That includes running, skipping, sliding, jumping, object manipulation such as throwing, kicking, batting, rolling. So there's a whole bunch there. Number six, career education. I did find a cool like idea for this because it's kind of hard to like think about how different that would be from a regular class, but I thought it was pretty cool with the ideas of like guest speakers coming in from sports related, you know, programs to kind of talk and give their experiences and help kids out, kind of finding their direction. Also, just in games in general, when you're playing games in the gym, you can have kids act as a referee, a scorekeeper, captain, etc. Use of assistive technology. That's pretty cool because our technology is advancing more and more every day. So at this point, it's super helpful to have treadmills, elliptical bikes available. It kind of equalizes the divide between sighted kids and then kids with visual impairments. Sensory efficiency skills. This is basically like I was talking about, using that bright ball on like green grass, or hearing a beeping goalpost, or having a beeping ball. And then lastly, the self-determination skills. That's just basically treating everyone the same. You want kids in your class who have visual impairments or any other kind of impairment to feel equal and to feel like they can easily do something and be appreciated for it. So all those things combined are or make up the ECC, and they help these kids who again qualify for special education kind of take that next step. The last thing I do want to talk about, I have a very good friend. His name is Kevin. That's him on the screen. He is completely blind. So my presentation's kind of over. I know I'm going past the time limit, but if you stay around to listen, um, I just wanted to share I did a little quote interview with him, and I found out some pretty cool things. So he became blind around 50. He had partial sight his whole life, but it was kind of like a light perception sight, so he couldn't really see things that were dark. He could see like the sun, he could see lights, but he couldn't see clearly. He's had guide dogs. He's had two guide dogs. Lucy and Sandy. One was a shepherd, one was a lab. They helped him just with his daily activities. And it was pretty cool how he told me he actually had to go to Rochester, Michigan for 4 weeks and actually work with a dog on site. So that was a pretty cool experience that helped him through his life. And then his parents were also around just up until about 2 years ago to kind of help him out. So he's made it pretty well. He has what's called retrolental fibroplasia, which is basically scar tissue built up on the retina, and it was because he was a premature baby, and when he was put into the incubator, there was actually too much oxygen given to him, and that broke some blood vessels that originally or evidently formed scar tissue, and then basically the doctors had told his mom he's either going to be retarded or blind. So he is fully blind now. He did lose all of his sight, but he gets around so well. He said his strongest sense is actually hearing. I thought it would be touch because the man has one of those, sticks, canes, whatever you want to call it. And he gets around so well with that. So I thought it would be touch, but he said hearing is so important to him. He loves music. He listens to all the football games. And he's just very up with it. So it's really fun to spend time with him, go to breakfast with him, and he's just an awesome guy. And it just goes to show that he is no different than anyone else, and he can do no less than anyone else. So really an inspiration. Super fun presentation for me to make. I do have my references listed as well as my photo references. So thank you for listening today, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.